Hi everybody, my name is Derek. I am a museum fellow here at the Wild Center, and today we're talking about an ecosystem common across the Adirondacks, the marsh or marshland. But before we do that, we have to define what a marsh is. So a marsh is usually an area of shallow, slow-moving water, populated by herbaceous plants that grow and die off over the course of the year, and lack a lot of trees. It's also usually fed by either a naturally occurring stream or a river or a lake. Here at the Wild Center, we have access to the nearby Racket River, and in today's video, we're going to figure out if a landscape adjacent to the river qualifies as marshland. Let's get started.
To explore the river ecosystem up close, my colleague Kayleigh and I are going to jump onto some stand-up paddleboards. If we can get our gear on. And we're off into the Oxbow Bend of Racket River. Notice that this section of the river doesn't have much growing in it, but as we get into the shallows, you can see bits of grasses begin to peek through. A telltale sign of a marsh habitat. As we make our way through the grasses, Kayleigh and I are stopped by an obstruction in the waterway. This is the work of North America's largest rodent, the beaver. And we're going to talk about them more in a minute, but for now, we have to keep exploring on foot. Suddenly, we find ourselves surrounded by herbaceous plants, or plants without woody stems, that dominate the marsh landscape, like reeds, sedges, and grasses. And you will find the occasional tree that is able to survive in the mineral-rich but waterlogged soil of a marsh. As we make our way through the grasses, Kayleigh and I stumble upon a peculiar landscape.
As we're exploring this marshland, I wanted to point out that right now I'm about 3 or 4 feet in elevation higher up than I was when my colleague Kayleigh and I paddled out here on our paddleboards. That's because of the structure underneath me and behind me, a beaver dam. North American beavers are ecosystem engineers. They modify their environment, making things like dams and dens to suit their needs. In this case, making basically their own pond, which is right behind me. Very slow-moving water that is a suitable habitat for them to live in. But their damming capabilities are so strong and so powerful, they can dam up an entire stretch of marsh and flood entire areas that were not once covered in water. In a future video, we're going to explore this dam a little bit more closely. I just wanted to point out that marshland in particular is modified by the animals that live in it, and beavers are no exception. This beaver den behind me is enormous, and the amount of damming they've done right in front of me here to alter the water table is pretty staggering and really cool.
Beavers are just one of many species of animal that thrive in the shallow, slow-moving, and nutrient-rich waters of marshland. Here in the Adirondacks, you can also find wood ducks, leopard frogs, and painted turtles foraging for their next meal among the abundance of grasses that have taken root here. Can you identify a marsh using the information you learned in this video? Go to wildcenter.org/naturelab for an activity associated with this video, as well as other activities to get you out and exploring the natural world in different ways. Thanks for watching from me, Kayleigh, and all your friends at the Wild Center.